Hi everyone, my name is Jailene. I'm a current intern here with Girl Up, and I'm also a rising senior at Wellesley College. Today I'm here with actress and activist Jameela Jamil, and we're here to have a conversation about leadership, confidence, and speaking your truth. Thank you so much for being here today, Jameela.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting. I'm a very big fan of Girl Up.
Well, we're so happy to have you here. I think just to kick this off, I'm going to start off with a question. So one of our Girl Up skill areas is being a leader of self. When you hear that phrase, what do you think of?
I think, to me, the first part of living your life in a healthy way is learning how to love and believe in yourself. And without that, it's very hard to convince anyone else to. And so I think it's vital that we spend the time and the money and whatever we need to in building ourselves up. Like, I'm a big advocate for not spending money on beauty products, and like especially like anti-cellulite creams, which don't work, and anti-stretch mark creams and anti-aging and all this stuff. I want everyone to save that money and instead spend it on therapy. I believe in building yourself up on the inside. So when I hear you say that, I think about the importance of our core, because that's what's going to carry us through what is going to be a harder life than it would be for a man.
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree. I think this leads us to the next question. I think everyone watching is seeing everything going on and wanting to participate and really become leaders in their own communities. And so, do you have a top 3 traits every leader should have or need?
Look, I have two feelings about this, right? One of them is that I don't think it's important for all of us to be leaders, because we can't all be leaders of millions of mini movements. It's better for us to all come together. And so I think it's important to not only view leadership as what is helpful. I think it's also unbelievably important to see yourself as part of a team. So for example, I'm seen as the leader of my I Weigh movement, but I have 1.1 million people with me in my community who sign all those petitions, who harass whichever company we need to harass, who make all of the noise, make all of the change with me. And so I'm just the face of it. I might be technically at the front, but I wouldn't be able to get anything done without my 1.1 million teammates. So that's one thing that I think is really important.
So I feel like I've experienced this all the time, but there's a lot of pressure in society to look or be a certain type of way, especially for girls and women. Do you have any advice to young people on how to overcome that pressure?
Yes, I do. First of all, you have to be very, very careful about what it is that you are allowing into your space. So that means, who are you following online? Do they make you feel bad about your body or the way that you look? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are your parents toxic about the way that you look? Are your friends toxic about the way that they look or you? You need to really look about all of the information that's coming into your brain, because we're smart, we're absorbing a lot and we hold on to it, we retain it. And so I think it's very important to protect your space. Unfollow, mute, block, delete. Tell people who are in your real life that if they are triggering you about your image or making you think too much about it, that they need to stop for the sake of your mental health, because it is a deliberate tactic from the patriarchy to make women obsessed with their appearance, right? Because if we're having to wake up earlier to get ready, then we're getting less sleep. If we're having to eat less than we need, then we have less nutrition, which is less brain food, less power. If we are thinking all day about our hair and our nails and our bodies and our makeup and whether or not we are beautiful enough, then we're not thinking about business or family or mental health or personal growth. We're just thinking about how to shrink ourselves. We need to grow. And so it's very important to look at loving yourself and contentment as an act of rebellion and resistance. Because remember, women are 80% of the market. And your generation this year have become the biggest consumers. So you're being targeted more than ever. And the way that materialism and capitalism works is that they want unhappy people buy more things. People who feel bad about themselves will go out and buy things that can fix their problems. If we are all content, we'll stop buying things. So that's why they go so hard to make us feel bad with photoshopped images, bad celebrities, detox and diet products, and unrealistic images of the same type of body in every single outlet of media. Protect yourself, and remember that every minute that you are spending thinking about your body and your face and what's wrong with it is a minute you are not spending thinking about your growth.
Oh, absolutely. I just feel like it's so hard nowadays, though. You can
Hmm.
mute certain accounts, unfollow certain celebrities or lifestyle Insta influencers pages. But when you're constantly surrounded by family or friends, it becomes really internalized without
For
you realizing
sure.
it.
For sure. And also, like, we inherit our parents' body image issues because even when they're not talking about us, they're talking about themselves. We internalize that. That's something that I think is so important. You see on social media at the moment, loads of people, friends, family, not even just famous people, are talking about their weight gain over COVID. Now, even if they're not talking about you, they're just talking about themselves. When we read that, we then think about ourselves immediately. And have I gained weight? Should I feel ashamed if I have? And so we have to be very careful about our language and our coding around this. And we have to stop talking about it. And we have to defend ourselves in our heads the way that we would defend a friend. If someone came up to
Yes.
you and was rude to you about the way that you look, I would fight them. I would physically take them down. And so therefore, I shouldn't allow myself or anyone else to say those things to me. And so I think that's very important. It's holding the same standard for ourselves as we hold for everyone else. And it is really difficult. And it's very important to be very honest with your family about the dangers of them bringing that into your hemisphere, into your periphery. You shouldn't be thinking about those things. And you have the right, you reserve the absolute right to tell them that that is not an acceptable way to behave around you. And if they care about your mental health, they will be more careful.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I always tell myself is remember to be kind to yourself and treat yourself in the same way you treat other people.
Yes, and not just kind, like die hard, ride or die, best friend in your head, because it's combating an inner bully that's been trained since the first time we watched a Disney cartoon. Since the first time we saw a white, blonde, skinny, 2-inch waist princess, that's when the coding began. So that bully has learned so much, and we have to develop like a real warrior inside to fight that bully and eventually kill it.
Yes, absolutely. I think moving on to the next question, what is one thing you think that we can all do right now to make the world a better place for girls and women?
What is one thing we could all do right now? I have two answers for this. Okay, so one of them is for anyone who is living in a house with a young boy, whether you're a sister or a mother or an auntie or whatever, or a father indeed, but something that all people can do is educate that little boy when he is still a sponge, when he is still able to learn before he gets onto the internet and discovers patriarchy. This is the time where you have them and they are open to learning, to explain to them the history of women, our plight, how to teach them how to sympathize with us, to empathize with us, to want to be protective over us, to educate other men about the way that we are treated and to be allies to us. I think that is one really important thing that we never think about enough. We think about trying to change the men who are already poisoned. And while that is also important, let's turn our focus to the boys who haven't yet been poisoned against us. And let's make them our friends. Let's make them our allies. So I think that's one bit of advice. And when it comes to women, full stop, as I said, do not buy into the industries that teach you to hate yourself. The thing that I feel most stressed about in this world is knowing that women don't know that we control the market. Anyone who's famous, we made them famous. Any product that is selling, we sold it. We're 80% of the market. We are the most proactive online. We have all of the power. So you can choose who the celebrities get to be. You can choose which products get sold, which companies get to make their stuff. If you know that there's a company that is hurting their employees, etc., this, that, and the other, you can choose where to spend your money and where to follow. You can take away anyone's power as a community. And so I think women need to learn that for the longest time, and girls, we have been told that the market controls us and tells us how to look. We control the market. Support brands that have more diversity, that have more sustainability, that have better working in conditions for their employers. You know, we've seen a lot of companies come out as being truly awful to the people that work for them and racist and bigoted. We stop giving them our money. We unfollow them. They lose all of their power. They lose all of their stocks. So just remembering that you can vote with your dollar. And also, please actually vote. Please actually learn, and please actually vote and choose people who are going to protect us and not take away our reproductive rights or our human rights.
That is so important. I think we forget that we can vote with our dollar as well.
Yeah, we have
And
all the power.
absolutely, and seeing how a lot of these companies, now that we're raising awareness on racial justice, sustainability, are now changing their
Practices.
organizations' practices.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mhm. And I think going back to the first part of, if you have a young boy in your life and educating them now about the dangers of the patriarch to reproduce that later in their lives. I guess my question is, like, how do you do that, stand up for what you believe in a household that doesn't agree with you? Or I think this doesn't have to pertain to the patriarchy, but just everyday life. You may believe in something, but not everyone else is rallying around that idea or believes in the same thing. Would
I,
you?
I believe in thoughtful education. So I think you should try at least to be able to talk to your family about your different opposing views. I also think it's a really good idea to not have to do all that labor yourself and give them reading materials and be like, if you really disagree with me, then read this book and then let's have this discussion and see if your mind changes at all. So that you as a young person don't have to do all of that labor of helping them unlearn decades of nonsense. So there are great books out there. On my platform, I Weigh, we have a book club and we're always promoting great books that help people learn about other communities. And so give them the books, show them the videos, show them the I Weigh page, show them all the activists that you love and let them explain their point of view and sit your family down and watch that. And if at the end of the day, you find yourself in a situation where your family are just openly bigoted or unkind to you or the people that you love, then this is a hard thing to say, but I've had to cut my family off before. I've had to distance myself from many families before because my mental health was not being protected by them. They were not meeting my needs of just me asking for them to be more careful. And I found their views sometimes to be impossible to align anywhere near mine. And so therefore I recognize that this whole idea that family are allowed to just get away with anything, and especially because we're girls, we just have to tolerate it because that's family. That's not a truth. You can have a chosen family of your friends. That's what's so amazing about the trans community is that they've created chosen families because many of them have been ostracized by their families. I've made an amazing family for myself out of friends, and they are people who respect my views, who even if they don't agree, they respect them and they treat me with kindness and tolerance. And so it's important for every girl out there to know that someone sharing your DNA does not mean that they are entitled to make you uncomfortable, ever.
Exactly. I think we just need to surround us with people who treat us with love and kindness, as
Yeah.
you said.
Find your tribe.
Exactly. And I think we're going to go off to our last question now.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for young activists working to develop their own confidence?
Activists. Okay, so first of all, I would say that it's very important to understand that activism is very, very difficult. Activism can be very lonely, and there are a lot of people who want to silence, in particular women, in particular marginalized people. And so you are going to come across the kind of hatred that you cannot even fathom. People who just are so threatened by oppressed people gaining back power, because, you know, there have been people talking about recently that I think people in power are afraid that if the oppressed become free, that we will seek revenge. And no one's looking for that. We're all just looking for equality, but they are afraid of their sins. And so they're scared that that will come back on them. So they try to squash our voices. So you need to really realistically understand that if you are going to, as just a single individual, put yourself out there, you have to be as strong as possible on the inside. Don't do it unless you have access to therapy. Don't do it unless you have access to a strong support network, until you have social media training and you know how to protect yourself online and in your everyday life. You know, because I post some of the abuse I get so that young activists understand that it is better to do this as a coalition rather than as an individual. Never think that you can be effective just by yourself. I'm only effective because of the group around me, and I'm very protective. I have access to mental health care, and I have a level of, I'm also older, so I can take it. So for young activists out there, really secure your headspace and your protection before you enter into this, because it's hard. It's so worth it, but it's hard. And never feel any shame in just joining someone else's movement, because you are as effective doing that as you are on your own, if not more so.
Yes, there's powers in numbers.
Yeah, I don't want to be one of the leading activist voices right now in Hollywood. I'd like all the other women with more money and more followers than me to join in so I could take a break. Everyone wants me to do everything. I never expected to be the center of attention. I never wanted that. I thought I would kick off a wave of more women taking on these subjects, but they didn't. And so you don't want to be the main guy. Trust me, I have to, because no one else is doing it right now. You want to join a group. It's much safer and much more fun.
Okie doke. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We've been more than happy to have you here.
Thank you. I've been thrilled to meet with you. Thank you. You're a wonderful interviewer, and I hope that we get to meet in person one day.
Thank you so much.